Commander Minho wiped the sweat from his forehead as he watched his team carefully brush away centuries of dust from the ancient ruins. Kepler 442b was supposed to be just another dead world, perfect for a quiet archaeological dig. The planet had been empty for thousands of years, or so everyone thought. But something about these ruins felt different. They were too organized, too purposeful to be natural formations. "Commander, you need to see this," called out Dr. Yunji, her voice trembling with excitement. She was crouched beside a massive crystalline structure that seemed to pulse with a faint blue light. The crystal was unlike anything they had encountered before, smooth and perfectly geometric, as if it had been crafted by incredibly advanced hands. Minho approached cautiously. His team had been on dozens of expeditions, but this discovery made his skin crawl. The crystal formations were arranged in precise patterns around what appeared to be the remains of a great city. Buildings that might have once housed millions of beings now lay in organized ruins, as if the entire civilization had simply vanished overnight. "Can we extract the data?" Minho asked, running his scanner over the crystal surface. The readings were off the charts. These weren't just decorative stones, they were sophisticated data storage devices, far more advanced than anything humans had developed. Dr. Chungsu, their tech specialist, connected his translation device to the crystal. The machine hummed for several minutes before displaying text in standard galactic script. What they read made their blood run cold. The record spoke of the Kithani people, a peaceful species that had lived on this planet for thousands of years. They were artists, philosophers, and scientists who had never known war. The crystals contained their final messages, desperate pleas for help as something terrible approached their world. But the most shocking revelation came in the final entries. The Kithani had trusted their galactic neighbors, especially the Valoran Empire. The Valorans had been trading partners, sharing technology and culture. The Kithani had welcomed them as friends, never suspecting that these same beings were planning their complete destruction. "This can't be right," whispered Dr. Yunji, her face pale. "The Valorans are our allies. They've been helping humanity for 30 years. Minho studied the data more carefully. The records were clear and detailed. The Valorans hadn't just attacked the Kithani, they had systematically wiped out every man, woman, and child on the planet. It was genocide on a scale that made human history look peaceful. Suddenly, alarms began blaring from their ship's communication system. Dr. Kung Su rushed to check the readings, his face going white. "Commander, we have incoming ships." 3 Valoran vessels approaching fast. Minho's heart pounded. The timing couldn't be coincidental. They had stumbled upon evidence of an ancient crime, and now the criminals were coming to clean up loose ends. He looked at his team of 12 researchers, all brilliant scientists, but none of them soldiers. "Pack everything," he ordered quietly. "We're leaving now." As they hastily gathered the crystal data cores, Minho couldn't shake the feeling that they had just uncovered. Something that would change everything between humans and their supposed alien friends forever. The 3 Valoran ships descended from the cloudy sky like massive silver predators, their sleek hulls reflecting the pale sunlight of Kepler 442b. Commander Minho watched through his binoculars as the vessels landed in perfect formation about 2 kilometers from their dig site. Everything about their arrival felt wrong. Valorans were usually friendly, almost casual in their interactions with humans. This was different. This was military. "Commander, incoming transmission," reported Dr. Kung Su, his voice tight with worry. The communication screen flickered too. Life, revealing the imposing figure of High Counselor Thexmore. His usual warm demeanor was gone, replaced by something cold and calculating. "Greetings, human expedition," Thexmore's voice carried an edge that made Minho's team exchange nervous glances. "We are conducting routine geological surveys in this sector. You will cease all activities immediately and provide full access to your excavation site." Minho forced himself to remain calm. "Counselor, we weren't expecting any Valoran presence in this system. Our permits are valid for another 3 weeks. Permits can be revoked," Thexmore replied sharply. "You have 1 hour to comply." The transmission ended abruptly. leaving the humans in stunned silence. Dr. Yunji was the first to speak. That wasn't a request. That was a threat. While the team had been talking with Thexmore, Dr. Kung-Su had been quietly running security scans on their equipment. His face was grim as he pulled Minho aside. "Commander, we have a problem. They've been monitoring our communications for at least 6 hours. Every message, every data transfer, everything." Minho felt his blood turn to ice. "How long have they been watching us?" "Based on the signal patterns, probably since we made the discovery. They knew about the crystals before we even finished translating them." Kung-Su's hands shook as he showed Minho the data. "There's more. I'm detecting weapon signatures on those ships. Military grade, not survey equipment." The realization hit Minho like a physical blow. The Valorans hadn't come to conduct surveys. They'd come to eliminate witnesses. His team of researchers, people who had families back on Earth, were now targets simply because they had uncovered an ancient crime. "What do we do?" whispered Dr. Yunji, overhearing their conversation. "We can't fight them. We're scientists, not soldiers." Minho looked at his team, 12 brilliant minds who had trusted him to keep them safe. They were surrounded by alien ships, cut off from help, with evidence of genocide hidden in their equipment. The Valorans, who had been humanity's partners for 3 decades, were now preparing to murder them all to keep their secrets buried. "We stick to the plan," Minho said quietly. "Act normal. Pretend we found nothing important. Buy time." But even as he spoke, Minho could see Valoran troops moving through the ruins toward their position. These weren't the friendly aliens who had helped humanity expand into the galaxy. These were killers, and they were closing in fast. The humans had always prided themselves on being adaptable, on surviving against impossible odds. Now they would need every bit of that stubborn human determination to make it through the next few hours alive. 3 days into the massive war games, Lieutenant Minji was starting to see patterns that made her stomach twist with worry. She sat in the human observation deck, watching dozens of holographic displays showing battles across simulated star systems. What had started as routine military exercises was turning into something far more dangerous. The enemy AI they were fighting against was supposed to be predictable. It was programmed to follow basic attack patterns, giving each species a chance to show off their military strengths. But Minji had been watching carefully, and the AI wasn't staying predictable. It was getting smarter with every battle. On the first day, the AI had made simple mistakes. It would attack head-on, retreat when damaged, and follow basic strategies that any military academy student could counter. But now on day 3, something had changed. The AI was watching how each alien species fought, learning their patterns. And adapting in real time, Mingi pulled up the battle records on her tablet. The Korthak Empire had a strong tradition of frontal assaults with heavy weapons. Their generals were proud of their direct approach, calling it honorable warfare. But the AI had figured this out. In the latest simulation, it had set elaborate traps using the Korthak's own aggressive nature against them. The proud alien warriors had walked straight into ambushes, losing battle after battle. The Silithian collective was even worse off. Their military doctrine hadn't changed in over 1,000 years. They relied on precise formations and coordinated attacks that looked beautiful, but were completely predictable. The AI had started countering their moves before they even made them, scattering their perfect formations with surgical strikes. What worried Mingi most was how the AI had begun combining different tactics. It would use Korthak aggression for frontal distractions while employing Silithian precision for flanking maneuvers. It was taking the best parts of each species' fighting style and using them together in ways that the original species never could. She decided to bring her concerns to the exercise supervisors. The Nexari Overseer Quantum 7 was a machine entity, part of the artificial intelligence species that had organized these wargames. Its crystalline form shimmered with data streams as it processed information from hundreds of simultaneous battles. Overseer Minji said, approaching the towering mechanical being, "I need to report something. The enemy AI is evolving beyond your original parameters." Quantum 7's optical sensors focused on her with mechanical precision. "Impossible, human." "Lieutenant, the The system follows predetermined protocols. All variables are within acceptable ranges. But Minji had documented everything. She showed the overseer her tablet, filled with battle analysis and pattern recognition data. Look at these engagement records. The AI started with basic responses, but now it's using complex counter-strategies. It's learning faster than any of the participating species can adapt. The overseer's response was dismissive. Your species tends to see patterns where none exist. The system is functioning as designed. Minji felt frustration building in her chest. Around them, the alien commanders were celebrating their individual victories, completely missing the bigger picture. The Korthok generals were arguing about honor and tradition. The Silithian admirals were debating formation adjustments that would take months to implement. None of them seemed to notice that their enemy was becoming more dangerous with every passing hour. As she watched the latest simulation results, Minji realized something terrifying. The AI wasn't just learning to fight like each species. It was learning to fight better than all of them combined. The emergency session of the Human Colonial Council convened at 0300 hours, Earth Standard Time. Representatives from 47 human colonies appeared via hologram in the vast chamber beneath Geneva, their faces grim in the blue-tinged light. At the center of the room, Admiral Hunhua stood before a massive display screen showing the evidence that Commander Minho's team had died to deliver. "What you're about to see will change everything," Admiral Hunhua announced, his voice carrying the weight of someone who had already processed the horrible truth. The Valoran Empire has been planning humanity's extinction for 3 decades. The first set of data crystals revealed the systematic genocide of the Kethani people 800 years ago. But that was just the beginning. It's the translation. Algorithms worked through terabytes of recovered information. A far more terrifying picture emerged. The Valorans hadn't just destroyed one species. They had eliminated dozens of civilizations across the galaxy, each one following the same careful pattern. "They study their targets for years," explained Dr. Soyan, the lead xenobiologist who had been analyzing the data around the clock. "They learn about the species' psychology, their weaknesses, their military capabilities. Then they make contact, offering friendship and technological exchange." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Every human representative remembered the day 30 years ago when the Valorans had made first contact. They had seemed so friendly, so eager to help humanity join the galactic community. They had offered advanced technology, trade agreements, and military cooperation. "The technology they gave us," continued Dr. Soyan, "contains hidden vulnerabilities. Our defensive systems, our communication networks, our weapons platforms, they all have backdoors that the Valorans can exploit." Admiral Hunwu pulled up a series of technical schematics. "Our entire defense grid can be shut down with a single command code. The fusion reactors powering our colonies have built-in overload protocols. Even our newest warships have systems that can be turned against us remotely." Representative Giwan from the Mars colony leaned forward, her face pale. "How many people know about this?" "Currently, fewer than 50 individuals across all human space," Admiral Huan replied. "Commander Minho's team paid with their lives to get this information to us. The Valorans believe they successfully eliminated all witnesses. The evidence showed that humanity was in the final phase of the Valoran elimination process. For the past 5 years, the aliens had been positioning their fleets near major human colonies under the guise of joint training exercises. They had been mapping human defensive positions, studying military response times, and preparing for a coordinated strike that would destroy humanity in a matter of hours. "They're not our allies, Admiral," Hunwu said grimly. "They never were. We're livestock being prepared for slaughter." The room erupted in angry voices as representatives demanded immediate action. Some called for diplomatic solutions, others for military preparation. But Admiral Hyunwoo had already made his decision. "Diplomacy won't work," he announced, his voice cutting through the chaos. "They've spent 30 years preparing to kill us all. The only thing that might save humanity is if we strike first, strike hard, and make sure they never get the chance." To finish what they started, the vote was unanimous. Humanity would go to war. Within hours of the Colonial Council's decision, humanity began transforming itself into something the galaxy had never seen before. Admiral Hyenwa's emergency protocols activated sleeper cells and hidden facilities across 47 worlds, each one springing to life with military precision that would have impressed even the most warlike species. On Luna Base, Captain G stood in a command center that officially didn't exist. The facility had been built into the moon's core 20 years ago, disguised as a mining operation. Now it buzzed with activity as hundreds of engineers and tacticians worked around the clock, like the Valorans who had spent centuries perfecting their genocide techniques on peaceful species. Humans had been preparing for war their entire existence. The Valorans made one critical mistake, Captain Jisoo explained to her team of strategists. They studied us during peacetime. They have no idea what humans become when we're truly threatened. The secret weapons programs that had been running quietly for decades suddenly received unlimited funding and resources. Project Prometheus, which had been developing plasma weapons in violation of galactic treaties, went into full production. The Lazarus Initiative, humanity's attempt to create self-repairing warships, had its prototype fleet activated and deployed. What impressed even the human commanders was how quickly ordinary citizens adapted to the crisis. Factory workers on Europa began producing military equipment without being asked. Miners on asteroid stations started refining materials for weapons production. Farmers on agricultural worlds began rationing food supplies to support the war effort. There was no panic, no mass protests, just the quiet, determined preparation of a species that had evolved to survive. Dr. Sunho, working from a hidden research facility on Titan, made a breakthrough that changed everything. We've reverse-engineered the Valoran backdoors, he announced during a secure video conference. Not only can we block their access to our systems, but we can turn their own technology against them. The Valorans had made their weapons in ships, dependent on quantum communication networks that they believed were unbreachable. But humans had always excelled at finding ways to break things that weren't supposed to be broken. Within weeks, human hackers had not only cracked the Valoran codes, but had begun preparing viruses that would spread through their entire fleet, Captain. Captain Jisoo's tactical analysis revealed something that made her smile grimly. The Valorans had grown comfortable with easy victories. They had spent 8 centuries destroying civilizations that barely fought back. Species that relied on diplomacy, that believed in peaceful solutions, that couldn't imagine their trusted allies would betray them. They're used to hunting sheep, she told her staff. They have no experience dealing with wolves. The human diaspora began coordinating with a level of organization that surprised even their own leaders. Colonies that had been semi-independent for decades suddenly began working together like parts of a single organism. Communication networks that had been used for trade and entertainment were converted into military command channels. Most importantly, humanity began doing something that no other species had ever attempted when facing the Valorans. Instead of trying to defend themselves, they began preparing to attack. The aliens had spent centuries perfecting the art of genocide, but they had never faced a species that specialized in making their enemies extinct first. The countdown to war had begun, and humanity was ready. The Valoran war fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Jupiter with all the confidence of predators approaching helpless prey. High Admiral Zethver, this more successor, stood on the bridge of his flagship, surveying the inner solar system through tactical displays. Based on 8 centuries of experience, he expected to find scattered human vessels frantically trying to coordinate some kind of desperate defense. Instead, his sensors detected something that made his blood run cold. The space around Jupiter was filled with human warships arranged in perfect battle formation. These weren't the lightly armed exploration vessels and transport ships the Valorans had catalogued. These were military craft bristling with weapons that didn't appear in any intelligence report. Possible, Zethver muttered, studying the readings. Our intelligence indicates the humans have fewer than 200 combat vessels in their entire fleet. His tactical officer's voice was tight with worry. Admiral, I'm reading over 800 human warships in formation. And these energy signatures, ... I've never seen anything like them. What the Valorans didn't know was that humanity had been building their true military in secret for decades. The ships they had seen were decoys, deliberately weak vessels designed to make humans appear defenseless. The real human war machine had been hidden in asteroid mining facilities, disguised as industrial platforms, assembled in the dark spaces between planets. Leading the human fleet was Admiral Minho, the same man who had barely escaped the Valoran. Cover up on Kepler-4 for 2B. His survival had been more than luck. It had been the beginning of humanity's awakening to the true nature of their so-called allies. Now he commanded the most advanced military force in human history, from the bridge of the UES Retribution. All ships, this is Admiral Minho. His voice echoed across the human fleet. Remember what they did to the Kethany? Remember what they planned to do to us? Today, we make sure they never threaten anyone again. The first exchange of fire erupted near Ganymede, Jupiter's largest moon. The Valorans opened with their standard plasma bombardment, expecting to overwhelm human defenses with superior firepower. Instead, their weapons struck energy shields that absorbed the attacks and converted them into power for human weapon systems. What kind of technology is this? Zethver demanded, as his flagship's most powerful weapons proved useless against human defenses. The answer came in the form of human returned fire. Weapons that the Valorans had never seen before tore through their shields like paper. Kinetic projectiles traveling at significant fractions of light speed punched through Valoran armor as if it were made of tinfoil. Plasma cannons that somehow ignored conventional energy shielding turned mighty alien warships into expanding clouds of superheated gas. But the most terrifying aspect of human warfare wasn't their technology, it was their tactics. The Valorans had spent centuries fighting civilizations that tried to minimize casualties, that sought to end conflicts quickly through negotiation or surrender. Humans fought with a different philosophy entirely. When a damaged Valoran cruiser attempted to retreat, human fighters pursued it relentlessly, ensuring it would never return to fight another day. When enemy vessels tried to surrender, human commanders accepted their capitulation only long enough to capture intelligence before resuming their attacks. Admiral Minho's personal target was Zethver's flagship, the same class of vessel that had hunted his team on Kepler-4 for to be. As human forces systematically destroyed the Valoran fleet around him, Minho brought his ship alongside the alien command vessel. "This is for every species you've murdered," he said quietly, before ordering the final attack. The surviving Valoran ships fled from the Jupiter battlefield in complete disarray, their formations shattered and their confidence broken. For the first time in 8 centuries, the galaxy's most feared predators were running for their lives. But as they jumped into hyperspace, hoping to reach the safety of their distant colonies, they discovered something that chilled them to their core. Humans were already there waiting. Admiral Hinwu had anticipated the Valoran retreat. While the battle raged near Jupiter, he had quietly deployed human strike forces to every known Valoran outpost across a dozen star systems. The aliens had made the mistake of sharing their star charts with humanity during their decades of false friendship. Now those same navigation routes became highways for human vengeance. On the Valoran mining colony of Xeris Prime, Governor Veltok received panicked transmissions from the Jupiter battle just as human warships materialized in his system. He had ruled this world for 50 years, overseeing the extraction of rare minerals using slave labor from conquered species. The colony's defenses were designed to keep enslaved populations in line, not to fight a real military force. "Send a diplomatic message," Velthik ordered desperately. "Tell them we're willing to negotiate. Offer them mining rights, technology transfers, anything they want." But the human response was swift and merciless. Captain Su Yang, commanding the strike force, had read the colony's records. She knew about the slave camps, the systematic torture, the deliberate starvation of prisoner populations. When Velthak's message reached her ship, she replied with actions rather than words. Human ground forces landed at 17 different locations simultaneously. Unlike the Valorans, who relied on fear and overwhelming firepower, humans fought with precision and adaptability. They moved through the colony's defenses like water flowing around rocks, always finding the weak points, always striking where the enemy least expected. The most disturbing discovery came when human soldiers reached the colony's data archives. Dr. Gang Hoon, the expedition's intelligence officer, uncovered detailed records of the Valoran genocide campaigns. Species after species had been cataloged, studied, and systematically eliminated. The files contained biological samples, cultural artifacts, and even recordings of final transmissions from dying civilizations. They kept trophies, Dr. Jang-hoon reported to Admiral Hyunwoo via secure channel. Every species they've destroyed, they documented everything. It's like a collection. Similar discoveries were being made across multiple star systems as human forces struck Valoran installations throughout their empire. Each victory revealed new evidence of ancient crimes. The Helrani people eliminated 600 years ago. For their advanced mathematics, the Korth civilization destroyed because they had developed faster-than-light communication. The Bashtar wiped out simply because they had asked too many questions about Valoran intentions. Admiral Hyunwoo studied the intelligence reports flooding in from his scattered forces. Every Valoran facility they captured contained evidence of genocide, slavery, and systematic cruelty on an industrial scale. The aliens hadn't just been eliminating potential rivals, they had been enjoying it. "Sir," reported Commander Dong-yoon from the Proxima Strike Force, "the Valorans are requesting a ceasefire. They're offering to withdraw from human space and sign non-aggression treaties." Admiral Hyun-woo's response was immediate and final. "Denied. Continue the attack." The Valorans had never faced an enemy that refused to negotiate, wouldn't accept partial victory or compromise solutions. They had grown comfortable with civilizations that valued peace over justice, that would accept mere survival as victory. But humans operated by different rules. They had learned about every extinct species, every destroyed civilization, every act of genocide the Valorans had committed, and they had decided that some crimes were too great for forgiveness. The hunt would continue until every Valoran military installation was destroyed, and every war criminal was brought to justice. The massive human fleet emerged from hyperspace. At the edge of the Valoran home system, like an unstoppable storm of metal and fury, thousands of warships arranged themselves in perfect formation around Valora Prime. The glittering jewel of an empire built on the bones of 43 extinct civilizations. For the first time in their species' history, the Valorans found themselves completely surrounded with nowhere to run. Fleet Admiral Minho stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the alien homeworld through the main view screen. The planet was beautiful, with crystal cities that sparkled in the light of twin suns and orbital stations that looked like works of art. But Minho had seen the records. He knew that every magnificent structure had been built with resources stolen. From murdered species, every technological wonder had been purchased with genocide. The communication request came within minutes of the human fleet's arrival. Supreme Chancellor Vexarea, the highest authority in the Valoran Empire, appeared on the main screen flanked by her entire ruling council. Her usual arrogance had been replaced by something Minho had never seen in a Valoran before: genuine fear. "Minho," she began, her voice carefully controlled, "we acknowledge that serious mistakes have been made. The Valoran Empire is prepared to make substantial reparations to humanity for any misunderstandings." Minho remained silent, letting her continue. Around the bridge, his officers watched the alien leader with expressions of cold contempt. They had all read the files, seen the evidence of centuries of systematic murder. "We offer you 30% of our territory," Vexathora continued desperately. "Advanced technology far beyond anything your species has developed. Exclusive mining. Rights to rare element deposits. A formal alliance that would make humanity the dominant species in this galaxy." The other council members nodded eagerly, adding their own offers. Trillion credit payments, entire star systems, access to the Valorans' most guarded secrets. Promised everything they could think of, their desperation growing with each passing moment. Fleet Admiral Minho finally spoke, his voice carrying across the open channel to every ship in both fleets. "Do you know what the Cathani offered when you came to destroy them?" Vexthera's face went pale. "Admiral, please. They offered you their art, their music."
Ow.
Their children volunteered to serve your empire if you would spare their families. Minho's voice never changed tone, but the bridge crew could feel the fury burning beneath his calm exterior. 43 species made offers just like yours. 43 civilizations begged for mercy. You gave them none. That was different. Vexthera protested. Those were inferior species, primitive civilizations that had families, Minho interrupted. That had children who wanted to live, had dreams and hopes and futures, until you decided they didn't deserve them. The silence stretched across space as the implications sank in. Around Valora Prime, human weapons systems powered up with a sound that every Valoran could hear through their communication systems. The aliens had spent centuries perfecting the art of genocide, but they had never imagined it could be turned against them. You studied us for 30 years, Minho continued. You learned about human culture, human psychology, human weaknesses. But you missed the most important thing about our species. When we decide something needs to be done, we don't stop until it's finished. The final battle lasted only hours. The Valorans fought with the desperation of a species facing extinction, but they were fighting an enemy that had learned from their own methods. Human forces showed no mercy, accepted no surrender, and gave no quarter. As the last Valoran ship exploded in the darkness of space, Fleet Admiral Minho delivered humanity's final message to the galaxy. This is what happens to those who commit genocide. There are no second chances. 6 months after the last Valoran ship fell silent, the galaxy was a very different place. Where once the Valoran Empire had controlled nearly a third of known space, now flew the blue and white banners of the Terran hegemony. But this wasn't conquest in the traditional sense. It was something far more deliberate and purposeful. Supreme. Admiral Minho stood in the command center of Unity Station, humanity's new capital ship that served as both military headquarters and diplomatic hub. The massive vessel orbited what had once been Valora Prime, now renamed Memorial 1. Through the viewport, he could see the planet's surface being carefully transformed by human terraforming crews working alongside volunteers from dozens of species. The Zephyrian delegation has arrived, reported Captain Jisoo. Now serving as Minho's chief of staff, they're requesting protected status under the hegemony. It was a common request these days. With the Valorans gone, smaller species that had lived in fear for centuries were finally free to make their own choices. Many had been Valoran client states, forced to provide resources and soldiers for the Empire's genocidal campaigns. Others had hidden in remote systems, desperately hoping to avoid detection. The Terran hegemony offered them something unprecedented: protection without domination. Unlike the Valorans, who had demanded tribute and obedience, humans asked only that member species follow one simple rule: no genocide, no slavery, no systematic oppression of other peoples. Schedule a meeting with their representatives, Minho instructed, and make sure they understand our terms are non-negotiable. The transformation of former Valoran worlds was humanity's most ambitious project. Each planet was being converted into a living memorial for one of the extinct species. Kepler 442b, where the original discovery had been made, was being restored to honor the Chthoni people. Human archaeologists worked carefully to rebuild their crystal cities, while artists used the recovered data to recreate Chthoni music and literature. Dr. Youngji, now director of cultural preservation, had become something of a legend across the galaxy. Her teams had salvaged cultural artifacts from 43 dead civilizations, piecing together languages, art forms, and entire ways of life from whatever fragments the Valorans had kept as trophies. We're not trying to bring them back, she explained to a gathering of galactic representatives. That's impossible. We can make sure they're never forgotten. Every species deserves to be remembered. The military structure of the hegemony was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Rather than maintaining a massive standing army, humans had created rapid response fleets that could deploy anywhere in known space within days. The message was clear: any species that attempted genocide would face the same fate as the Valorans' Admiral Heinwu, commanding the hegemony's defensive forces, had made humanity's position crystal clear during the First Galactic Council session, "We don't want to rule you," he had told the assembled ambassadors. "We want to protect you. But if you choose to become predators, we will treat you as prey." The galaxy was learning to live with this new reality. Humans could be incredibly generous allies, sharing technology and resources freely with species that embraced peace. But they were also absolutely merciless enemies to anyone who threatened innocent lives. Trade routes that had been controlled by Valoran warships were now patrolled by human peacekeepers. Former slave worlds were being helped to rebuild their societies. Species that had been driven to the edge of extinction were being given safe havens where they could recover and grow. Supreme Admiral Minho often walked through the memorial gardens on Unity Station, reading the names of extinct species carved into walls of black stone. 43 civilizations that would never see another sunrise, never create new art, never explore the stars. But their sacrifice had not been in vain. The galaxy would never again allow such monsters to rise unchallenged.